Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today for another episode of Coffee and Crypto. Today we've got a special guest with us, Mr. Spaceman, who's from Good Game Hunters. And us at our game guild, we work quite a bit with these guys and collaborate on a lot of things. So I'm really excited to have you here today, Mr. Spaceman. Thank you so much for taking some time. And maybe just to kind of kick it off, what is Good Game Hunters and how did you guys really get started?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm glad for you having me. So thank you for that. Good Game Hunters is a community of gamers with a focus on the Web3 gaming space. So you're asking how it all started. It
Mhm.
started with our parent company, which is GamerPay.
Okay.
GamerPay is a CS:GO marketplace,
Mhm.
so marketplace to trade these CS:GO skins. So from a GamerPay perspective, they have been very interested in the trading of digital assets for quite some while, and also a lot of the guys there has been in the industry like just as long or if not longer than NFTs, right? So all of a sudden, when this whole Web3 gaming started to kick off, and we see games where you can now trade NFTs and so on. This industry becomes interesting to look at as how it evolves. And but the main problem we saw was one, there was not enough gamers. It was mostly speculators. Um,
Mhm.
so the need for gamers, and secondly, just need for gaming or games that are actually fun. So like not some of the problems with the current gaming is that you play to earn, and so you'll just cash out, and you're
Yep.
not having fun. You're just as a salary. And for us, it's like a core belief that gaming should be a spare time hobby and should be for fun, and that's the main priority why you play.
We completely agree. And it's been interesting to kind of see that evolution in Web3, especially over the last, I'd say, 8 months, during this year, kind of that shift from play to extract, almost, you could call it,
Yeah,
into wait, projects realizing they actually need fun games to keep people's attention. And that needs to be kind of more of the primary focus. And it's interesting because with us, I remember we actually met in the Heroes of Mavia Discord, me and you, that's kind of originally how we started talking. And, I realized this issue quite early on too. So what we did in our game guild was we were trying to focus more on the esports side of
mm,
Web3, right? And not so much the scholar model, which has worked great for a lot of game guilds, don't get me wrong. But I seen the same thing, kind of that play to extract becomes the priority rather than play for fun. And I didn't really see how competition was gonna, grow really well in there. Because if scholars are just playing to simply earn, where's the incentive to be, better than the next guy other than just simply earning a little bit more in your tokens, which can be a good incentive, but wasn't always the case. And of course, shooters is really a really good example for that. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about some of the tournaments you guys have been doing because I know you just ran one recently, and then also the website you just got launched up. So maybe two parts to that question. Firstly, what are the tournaments? Are you going to be doing more of them down the road? And what kind of happened with the website there that you got it launched? And do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, maybe?
yeah. So in Good Game Hunters, what we aim to do is create obviously a focus on these games and the community around that. So what does a community of gamers do? We play games.
Yep.
So we have in Good Game Hunters Discord, we have game nights and we have tournaments. And these tournaments, we give out prizes either through GamerPay or through collaborations with other various partners.
Okay.
So we also have some cash on the line, which makes the stakes sometimes pretty high. But
Mhm.
people have a lot of fun playing. So I mean, that's the main focus for that. And we also have a website called gghunt.io. On the website, you are able to see the different games or some of the games we have like looked at.
Mhm.
It's more meant to be an overview of the game, so more casual gamers can just browse through it, sort of like a library to get inspired. A ton of more games will be added in the future as well,
Okay.
but it differs a bit from some of those because it's not a 10-page PDF where you read every single detail about tokenomics and so on, right? So for us, the website and a lot of this are really catered traditional gamers, where you don't necessarily care about how many tokenomics or care about that. Like, just is it what type of game is it? Do I think it's a game that I enjoy to play? And like, then you will lead them to the official websites and Discord and so on for them to dive deeper themselves, right?
Okay. That's awesome. I really liked your guys' top 5 hunted. And thanks for answering those questions, by the way. But that was making me think about the top 5. We've actually found quite a few titles through that, like the Boundless is a new one we were looking at thanks to you guys, and actually Eve.io. You guys kind of started us down that rabbit hole, and now we've actually got the guild running with Scholar. We got the player skins set up, and the gaming division is now doing the play to earn with Eve.io, and we're having a lot of fun with that. The top 5 hunted, do you think that's going to stay mostly with first person shooters because of your guys' background with gamer pay and the CSGO skin marketplace, and that's kind of where you guys are comfortable? Or is that just seems to be the case right now that most of the shooter games are the ones that are the most playable? I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about that, if you guys are making kind of a niche within shooters, or is that a coincidence?
Well, I think it's a good question. First off, to some of you who probably haven't heard of top 5 most haunted, in Good Game Hunters, we on a monthly basis or whenever it's needed, we host a vote where people can nominate. First, there's a few days of nomination, and then there's a few days of voting, where then people can vote the games they are most interested in and are most looking forward to play either now or in the future. And depending on this list, it's pretty much always going to be the current list that we have the most focus on for game nights and tournaments. But to also answer your question about the shooter perspective, so having GamerPay as a parent company, we do have a sort of a bias and experience in that field. So that, of course, has left us for looking at some of these games. But in the top 5 most haunted, people are welcome to submit whatever they want or whatever they think is fun, right? So like we will probably always enjoy shooters ourselves, but let's say the community gets really hyped up for another game, maybe like a MMORPG, right? Or something like that. Like, we are very open to including that as well, in case that's what the community want as well. And top 5 is really just meant also to empower the community to have a voice in like what direction, what games, what do they think is fun, right?
And I think that's something that we enjoy just being part of your Discord for, because it's actually really nice to see what other people are generally interested in now, because I find as a game guild that helps us kind of understand, okay, what's more popular compared to what's not, and how is the space kind of looking. And there's a lot of great information from that. And I know we've really benefited quite a bit from collaborating with you guys. So I just want to say thank you for everything over the past couple months, especially. It's really been great. I know all of the people within our gaming division and stuff really enjoy playing with you guys and coordinating things. I mean, just to kind of give a couple examples, you guys got us early access to Delicium, which is an amazing looking game. I mean, the art is absolutely phenomenal. It's really cool to kind of be in some of the like pre-alpha testing stages of it, thanks to your guys' help. And then recently you also just got us some NFTs for Forged Arena, so I'm going to sending the gaming division over to be playing that to give you guys some feedback. Do you want to maybe explain a little bit how you guys fostered those relationships with some of these game companies to even be able to facilitate that? We've definitely been really impressed and appreciate that, but I'm curious if you could explain or go into a little bit more detail.
Well, yeah, and of course, I want to start by saying thank you to you too, because it's been a pleasure working with you guys and collaborating. But I think we touched a bit on it in the start, where one of the main problems with Web3 games right now is the need for gamers, right? So due to the speculative nature of people saw the rise of Axie Infinity, how much money could be made, which have driven in arguably more speculators, investors, compared to actual gamers. So a lot of these games, and especially in early stages, have a Discord where they have a community that's maybe like 80% of investors, speculators who were there for the mint, who were there when the NFT bull run was on, who was there to flip NFTs, who were there to like just extract money. So for them, they are just intrigued to get like actual gamers. So it actually becomes quite easy to get in these conversations with these games, because they want gamers, and we have gamers that want to play games. So making these collaborations forward and while growing just becomes even a bigger part of Good Game Hunters, be able to offer all these early access to members, right?
That's awesome. Well, I think it's great too, because we have to focus on Web 2 and gamers in general, and bringing people over to have a good time and play games rather than just clickers and, kind of what we first seen in Web 3. And I think a lot of projects started to realize that, and organizations too, like, wait, we can't just target Web 3 people for Web 3 games. We really have to think about how are we going to get people over, from Web 2 into this space. What can we do to facilitate that? I think shooters is a great bridge, because there is such a hot competitive scene, especially in Counter-Strike or Call of Duty, or pick your top, 5-10 FPS game. Not only is there tons of player bases, there's a lot of really skilled players. And I think once things get to a point where you're earning more based on your skill and how good you are, which is kind of the case now a little bit, like Eve.io is a good example, then all of a sudden people realize the power's in their hands for their earning potentials. I think we're going to see a lot more, come on board and join. But groups like your guys is being willing to help facilitate that is going to help people feel a lot more comfortable coming in, I think, because there's a lot. It's complex. Just figuring out wallets and blockchains and networks and how everything works is one thing, and then Discord is another, with all the different groups and everything that goes on. So we're really happy to be able to help you guys in any way, through game testing, other things that we're doing, even just having people participate in your events. It's been really great. How did you, I want to talk a little bit about Anders, because it's mostly been, you and him that we've kind of dealt with the whole time. Firstly, how did you get involved with him? And was it really kind of both of you guys that got this started, or how did that all work?
Well, Anders has been a part of GamerPay before Good Game Hunters.
Okay.
So I think Good Game Hunters, I was like the third member in the Discord.
Oh,
I
nice.
I had a friend in real life who's helped Good Game Hunters with some translating,
Okay.
and Good Game Hunter, or I'm sorry, GamerPay. And then once GamerPay started looking more into crypto games, they were asking around like if someone knew someone who was like interested in that. And at that point, I have been looking at the industry for quite a while.
Mhm.
Being part of Neo Tokyo and other various games, I followed pretty closely what was going on, and it was and still is a hobby of mine. So in that way, it just became very easy to see how we could collaborate and could work together on creating Good Game Hunters, because they had the idea of looking for crypto games from GamerPay perspective, and I
Mhm.
saw this problem being we don't have enough Web2 games. And I actually think you touched on a good point, saying that a lot of Web3 games make the mistake of just like marketing NFT project and being when is the IDO, or
Yeah.
when is the cash or airdrop going to be given out, and marketing to Web3 natives, which is a big mistake, right? Because it works in a bull run, your price goes up like everything else, and you drive hype. But once it actually bull run dies down, or once the game actually launches, it doesn't need like prices to fluctuate. It needs players, right?
Yeah.
That's just like the main thing for a game. It needs players, and right now I would argue like it's less than 1%, or less than 5% of like native gamers or traditional gamers that's into crypto gaming or heard of crypto gaming.
Yeah.
um so it's just a big mistake looking away from the 95% and only going for the 5% who's only heard of it. The real treasure is the traditional gamers that's yet to discover this amazing space. And in my opinion, it's just we're early, and a
Yeah.
lot of the games are not that great yet. There's the ones that's out now are very simple. It's because they have the first move advantage, so they
Yeah.
publish, of course, before the AAA games. But it's just a matter of time before really good games and big studios really roll out like some heavy hitters that actually can compete. But the gaming industry is in traditional just so good, and it really has grown to be such complex games and great games, right? So it's going to take a bit for a crypto game to really find its ground to compete with that.
I think so too. And I think you're right about the 1 to 5%. It's probably way less than one. Like it feels like that at that point. We still have we're early, like you were saying. And we're seeing a lot of that now. We're getting kind of glimpses of it. Like I think of some titles like Big Time is really great. I know we got our game guild playing that. And a lot of people have been like, this is what I thought an NFT game would be, where the loot is stuff you pick up as NFTs. Like we've been waiting for this, and you can see some of the AAA companies like Mavia getting further along, and their beta is kind of right around the corner. So I feel like by the time we get to next year, I think there's going to be some titles that are playable that shake things up quite a bit, and then of course, depending on how the market goes, because it is, popularity too, right? We need the liquidity to come back in. It's going to be interesting to see if everybody kind of just throws the whole fun stuff to the side and gets money crazy again, or if these projects are gonna stay kind of along that path, look for sustainable models, and then within a year or two or three, really we have games that are competing with, the same AAA games in Web2. Yeah, it's gonna be fun to see. And one thing that I quite enjoy about this industry, unlike traditional business, it's usually not a good thing to collaborate with people in the same industry as you in competition. Web3 is exactly the opposite. It's like we all benefit more from collaborating and working together with each other. And that's probably one of my favorite aspects, like game guilds collaborating, or, us with you guys through organizing things and like testing games and all that. Like there's no reason we don't all benefit from doing that. And I think that I don't think that's going to change. I think that's the nature of blockchain, and that's, the nature of Web3, because the more people that are involved, the more liquidity that comes into the project, it benefits everybody. It's not like I'm trying to keep the game to myself, or I don't want to spoil the secrets. I think people are going to be a lot more likely to teach and help people become better in Web3 games than traditional games too. There's going to be more of an incentive, which I think is interesting. And it's going to be cool to see that foster in the FPS and shooting genre and even other genres. And I know that we're really excited to continue to collaborate with you guys on a lot of the awesome stuff that you're doing, and the tournaments, and just kind of seeing how your community, thinks about the different games is cool. And I'm glad you answered the question about kind of shooters and brought up a good point that it really depends on the community and what other people are thinking. What do you guys have planned kind of down the road? Are you going to focus on the tournaments, maybe on like a monthly basis or something? What's kind of the goal down, looking 6 months to a year from now? Do you guys know?
I think first of all, we're gonna continue hosting regular game nights, regular tournaments.
Okay.
We're gonna continue making more collaborations with early access to games.
Nice.
We also you brought up Bondless, so
Yep.
next Wednesday and the Tuesday after that, we also have some early playtesting for that. So it's
Nice.
we're gonna continue down this route. We're also gonna do some NFT giveaways. We're gonna do a lot of these things. But I think we also have to not like make a roadmap set in stone, because of
Mhm.
course, we're not an NFT project, right? So we don't
Yep.
have to promise anything. Like we're not asking for
Good
anyone's
point.
money. Yeah, we're
True.
not asking for anyone's money. So like we like I feel like we have more ability to adapt uh,
Yes.
other than other like an NFT project or a project that promises to the moon or whatever, right?
Yep.
So we can like I think we would be open to adapt into different opportunities in case we saw that maybe it makes sense to do yeah some different stuff. But for now, I think the tournaments, the game nights, the NFT giveaways, and early access, and research reports, the short research reports,
Mhm.
and also just a community of like-minded gamers. I mean, there's a bunch of people in the Discord, and that's asking for help to different games, right? And
Yep.
that's the beauty of that. Then you can see like people helping each other out and so on. So I think that's the route we're gonna go for at the moment.
That's awesome. I feel like we have that advantage too. You know, for us as a game guild, we didn't create a token and raise money in a seed and private sale and do that traditional route that a lot of the game guilds did for that kind of same reason. You know, one, we get to make our own choices as opposed
Mhm.
to you know, having a whole bunch of people running the business or company. But same thing, we can adapt. And I think in a space with how quickly we see Web3 moves, I think that that ability to adapt is a little underrated, actually, and can kind of get some projects in trouble when they can't, you know, move along quick enough. So I completely agree with you on that. I really respect that answer because we feel the exact same way. And I'm definitely looking forward to having more opportunities to work with you guys. So I just wanted to say thanks for spending some time and coming on here today. For everyone who's interested, I'll definitely have their Discord link down below in the description. Go check them out. It's just a great place to get information about some of the games. You can vote, like he was saying, on the top 5 about once a month. They have tournaments and other things going on. And of course, definitely make sure you scoot over to our Discord too. I'll have the link down below. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Mr. Spaceman, for coming on and talking about Good Game Hunters. I'll have your website, all your information down below for everyone to check out as well. And until next time, guys, cheers.